Welcome to Marketing MASH, brought to you by themarketingscope.com.
Welcome to the Marketing MASH. I'm Eric Vidal, she's Crystal Colson. We're here to talk about content marketing. Obviously, this is a topic could take hours or days. I love this topic, but let's try to be concise and wrap it up in just a few minutes. And to start this conversation, I know you have some fun facts.
I do. I have some very interesting facts about content.
Great.
According to the Nielsen study, 27 million pieces of content are shared on the internet each day.
Each day, that's a lot. That's a lot of content.
That's a lot of content. I think half are actually shared by Eric Vidal. It's not part of the study, but
I wish, but.
Yeah. Another interesting fact, Content Plus says interesting content is a top 3 reason people follow brands on social media.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense. I love to follow my favorite brands on social media, keep up with them. And another interesting fact is, according to The Drum, 78% of CMOs believe custom content is the future of marketing.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, that makes sense. I mean, that makes sense to all the different executives that I've talked to. And let me tell you a story here. I'll go back to, and not as far back as the 70s. This was maybe 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was at a marketing conference, and I sat at a lunch table, and there was about 8 of us. And there was a couple directors, 6 VPs, and one of the vice presidents of marketing for a tech company brought up something very interesting to the group, and we talked about it for a half hour. But he was frustrated and upset because no one on his staff could write content or write it well, and content was very important to them. And we all kind of went around the table, and we were all in a similar situation. And it's a combination of marketers just don't write a lot of content. Well, back then, they're getting better now, I think, but still, it's hard to write content. For me, during the day, it's hard because I have so many things going on. And I write my content after I leave, I shut down, and the kids are in bed or what have you. Yeah. I need some peace and quiet. But what's interesting is you go back 6 years ago, you asked all those vice presidents and directors, how many have a director or a vice president of content? Or an executive editor, or a writer, a senior writer? Not a lot of them. A lot of them were farming out their content. But now, 2 of the Marketing Scope's big sponsors, Marketo and Act On Software, they have senior content people. And so they're creating content and making a machine and churning it out internally, but they also leverage external folks as well. And that's the same inside my organization. I hired a senior manager with a strong writing background to manage our content. And so what I've seen over just the last 2, 3, 4, 6 years, especially the last 2, is that shift where content is so strategic and it's taken so serious at the highest levels that they're having people, a team, or at least one person in charge and cranking out that content. So if you're on our blog, we have some great white papers to go into more detail. One is by the Marketing Scope. It's a little high level, but there's a couple others by Marketo and Act On Software. And so take a link or click on the link, take a read, go take a deep dive at some of these white papers. I think they're very good.
Very interesting.
Yeah, let me bring up real fast the Marketing Scope's white paper or best practice guide. They talk about 5 steps to success when launching a content marketing strategy. And I'll quickly go over some of these, and I'm sorry I don't have these memorized. So build the case for innovation. And so build the case, build a strategy, have goals, hire somebody or a team in place, and have a calendar of what you're going to do, and create the machine, if you will, right? And then the other one is gather support from the top, get executive buy-in. Long story, but that's one of my biggest challenges. I have to sneak, hide, move things around when creating content, because a lot of execs at my own company would rather me be doing something else, would rather me be working on lead generation as opposed to creating content. But sometimes they forget that that's part of the whole process as well, or the whole lead gen machine even. The third thing is figure out your buying personas. And so understand, some companies are lucky they only have one buying persona, some have multiple, 5, 6, 7 plus. Understand who they are, what they are, and create maybe messaging guides for the folks that are creating content to leverage and follow. Sometimes you have to be strict when it comes to that. And I think the other one is and going back to how you love brands, is know your brand. Know it, understand it, make sure the people who write it, especially outside contractors, whether it's your PR team or outside writers, understand your brand. And I think the fifth one is build the social machine. You notice how I like to use that term, build the machine, because it's a factory sometimes. But from a social media perspective, build that machine. Find the 7, and it doesn't have to be 7. That's what I recommend. Find the 7 social media vehicles that work best for you, and then find out how you're going to drip or distribute that content, and manage it, measure it, find out what works, find out what doesn't, and then adjust. So, like I said, go to those reports. There's 3 of them right now on the blog. You can go a lot deeper and find out a lot more about some best practices from a content marketing perspective. Love to hear your thoughts. If you have any other suggestions on articles or reports or white papers out there that you've seen, leave it on our blog and let everyone else know about it. Thank you for joining us at the Marketing Mash.
Thanks again.
That's it for this episode of Marketing Mash. You can share your thoughts by following us on Twitter and Facebook. Subscribe to our podcast to keep up with the show. And of course, you can always find us by visiting themarketingscope.com.